going to start on legacy planning. This is Gary Melville from the United Methodist Foundation of New England, and a good friend of mine as well. Gary has done these kind of workshops in previous churches I've served and does a fabulous job. So we'll have a bit of a seminar, and then we'll have time for questions. And so we are recording this live, so welcome anybody who is joining us online. And if you have any questions, you can put those in the comments as well, and we can try to answer them. So, good. Welcome, Gary.
And I will have some extra handouts for people online, so you can have some packages to get through. In the packet that you'll see there, there's a slide deck there that I'm going to walk through. There's also a guide to planned giving. That's something that to take home, and that sort of goes a little bit deeper into some of the ways to give. But I wanted to give a broad overview of some of the things you've probably already talked about in your series, and I'll skip over some things that I know you talked about last week. If you have any questions, I'll try to answer them on the fly so that we can get it all in. And by the way, I've been at the foundation now since 1999, and I was looking on the wall here. I was here, we were doing a workshop for clergy financial planning, and the pastor was Richard Swan. So I had to go back to see how long ago that was. I think that was on the last, because I was here also to deliver a gift annuity check when Kathleen Towns was here. So I've been here periodically over the years. Your foundation, by the way, is a separate organization from the conference. Our office is in Gary, New Hampshire. We cover all the states, and our sole purpose is to help churches and individuals who want to be generous. So we help people to make legacy gifts, and then we help churches manage the money. But we also do grants. So if you're starting to do a ministry project, we can get some seed money for that. Gwen knows Reverend David Abbott very well, and he's the coordinator for the grant stuff. We also do church loans and help with capital campaigns. I heard that word this morning. So maybe we can help out a little bit with that as well. So I titled this, Get Your Ducks in a Row, and that's part of the process of living well and dying well, is getting everything lined up. If you open that up, and you'll see, I think the process that we need to be talking about deal with some of the important questions, not only for our health and our family, but also our faith, because we come at this with a different lens than people that don't have faith. And so, as we heard this morning, I love that story about the woman was trapped underwater, which really was a miracle. If you've ever gone whitewater rafting, one of the things that they tell you is stay in the middle of the river, because if you go up to the edges, you get caught in what is called a strainer. Class 4 and Class 5 rapids have so much pressure coming down on you. If you get stuck under something, you don't get up. Typically, I've done some whitewater rafting up in Maine, and they usually do like a recovery. They dam up the river, let the water come down, and then they come and find you because you're stuck under there. There's no way to get you out. So that really was a miracle that she got pushed out from underneath that. The other thing, part of this, is finding the right trusted partners when you're an attorney. And the more that you have, the more you need, like an accountant, a financial planner, and also your pastor as part of this process to deal with some of these things. And I think your doctor. Last week we had the hospice person come, I believe. When you're filling out those healthcare duct forms, talk to your own doctor about what do these things mean, because it can get complicated around that issue. Our goals on the next page is to give a piece to the family. The hardest thing, I think, I used to be a financial planner. I have a lot of attorney friends. I have a lot of pastor friends. And every one of them has a horror story about what happens when people don't plan. Whether it's around the funeral, whether it's around a will, having no will. So part of our process is making sure there's peace in the family to take care of avoiding all those issues. Sometimes when we plan, we want income for our family. Sometimes we want to have the principal. We want to leave a legacy to our family. Sometimes to our church down the bottom. Reduce the cost of probate and estate taxes. I don't. Up in Maine, you probably have some sort of death tax. Is anybody aware of, when you died? In Massachusetts, it used to be anything over $1 million. They just raised it to anything over $2 million they would tax. The federal government, you have to have over $12 million before that. So the estate taxes for most of us aren't an issue anymore. But some of those things of health care if you're disabled, or if you have a child that's disabled, you need to think of those things. The planning process consists of, and I had to laugh for your, I don't see him here, but your trustee that got up and said we want to inventory everything. Mm-hmm. As individuals, we need to inventory everything too. And that can be also, and put it aside, so if you had a fire in your house, you know what you have. But the planning process, if you're going to your attorney, list all your family members, write down all the property that you have, how it's owned, decide where you want your stuff to go when you're gone, and then sign those legal documents. So that's sort of like the overview of how, if you sat down with your attorney, the planning process is going to go. And we can skip the healthcare ducts. You did that last week. I think you covered healthcare directives. So those
if anybody has any questions.
Okay, so does anybody have any questions about the healthcare stuff? There's 2 basic documents that you need. One directive, tell your doctor how you want things to go, and then you have a person standing in for you. And different states call it different things. Some places call it a healthcare directive. Massachusetts calls it a healthcare proxy. You appoint someone to act on your behalf when you can't. And so those are 2 different things, but it's important to have those. There's also a higher advance directive toward the end of life where you enact those like do not resuscitate orders, and those are in effect when you're in the last days of life.
There was somebody who came to me after worship to talk, before worship, and there's a family member who is in his 90s, and they're, having to restrain him, putting feeding tubes down his throat. And, he knows that that's not what this loved one would want, but he doesn't have an advance directive. And so the family is just doing every possible intervention to extend life, when that's probably not what this person wants.
Yeah.
And, if you have a car accident or something and you're incapacitated, you want to have that.
It's very important, and not just for older people, but for younger people. The Terry Shrivo case years ago, young woman that was got in a car accident, was basically brain dead, and her husband and her parents fought in court for years, deciding when the end of life was going to be. So, not just for older people, but for all of us, to have those directives in place, so that we can die the way that we want, with dignity. One of the other durable power of attorneys that we can sign, and if you sit down with your attorney, they will have you not only sign your will or trust, but it'll be a durable power of attorney for property. And this, if you're incapacitated, who's going to sign your checks, pay your bills, and all these things nowadays, you can go online and download a will or whatever. If you do that, I would still suggest reviewing that with an attorney, because not everything is online.
Or you can go to the bank.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't have money for an attorney, so nowadays you can take a paper to the bank and notify it, and then the bank signs up, but the signature, and you sign it, and you get it notified.
Yeah. Yeah,
My
that's
dad
another.
just passed away this past, in August 29th at the May Med.
Yeah.
And I watched, and I didn't want anything to happen, so I watched them, and it was really.
Yeah, it's hard when someone dies, and sometimes it can.
Because I got a paper notify at the bank for something else before
Yeah.
with a special sale.
Right.
I
So-
know I wasn't supposed to.
Right,
say
so
that.
some things have to be notarized, absolutely, and if it's not notarized, then the court will just throw it out.
Right,
The other thing that I would, Teresa, and why you wanna have a durable power of attorney, if you're incapacitated, you wanna have something that says that I can make a charitable gift.
well, there's a piece of paper said live and will.
Yeah, well, that's, a living will is about your health, and this is about your property, right?
Oh, I don't
Yeah,
have to
but you
worry about
wouldn't
that.
do
I
nothing
don't
if
know
the
about
guy
that.
would give a will, let him know.
So make sure that when you, if you have a durable power of attorney, that it lists that you can make a charitable gift, because without that, you can't make a charitable gift.
Yeah, but some of them twist stuff around. When my dad was sick, living will, instead of go to the bank, he should have went to the bank, it was much more better. But they twist everything around. The Lord and everything took advantage of him because of his disability. And so they put trust fund instead of living will, and then they had to go to court. So I don't trust, ever since then, I don't trust any lawyer.
You know, you have to find a good one.
They treat people bad. I seen it, I witnessed it, and it's just not right.
Yeah, you want to find, especially for an estate
Right.
planning attorney, you want to find people that do that and not just like divorce law.
Well,
So,
he did
find a
have it,
specialist.
but that person twisted around because he's stuttered. Because he had a feet problem, so they twist everything around.
That's that.
Now, is that the same as a financial power of attorney?
Pardon me?
Is that the same durable power of attorney as a financial power of attorney?
Right. So that'd be a financial power of attorney, but you want to make sure it says durable power on it, because you can have a limited power, right? So you can say, I'm going to give you a power of attorney to sell my house while I'm down in Florida. That's a limited power of attorney. So a durable power of attorney goes when I'm incapacitated. So it will
should
stay
state
right.
that.
It should state right up front.
I'll have to check.
My
my
brother's
will.
going through that
Sure,
now with my
it says
dad.
that.
Dad, he owns the house, and the brother's going through
Says I
that now.
put my nephew as my
They have
financial
they have to call the
power.
lawyer, they have to pay a lot of money for
Yeah,
the burial,
knows
and
where all my investments are.
Yeah,
it's expensive.
it's
when you have to
it's
bury
expensive.
like
It's
that.
expensive to live and it can be expensive to die as well. On that next page, there's a listing of various types of trusts. I'm not going to get into most of these today, but the most common type of trust is a living trust. And when I say trust, just think of a box where you put your stuff. You can put things in and take it out while you're alive. It still has your social security number on it, but you retitle it, and so I could have one, the Gary Melville and Carol Melville Living Trust. And I could put our bank account in there, I could put, like the house in the trust, so that when I die, I don't have to go through the probate process, the court, my trustee is named, and they can make disbursements in accordance with the trust. So it makes that whole process a lot easier. The key to that, though, is making sure that I've retitled everything in the name of the trust. Because if I don't put things in the trust, they have to go through the probate process, which we'll talk about then. So you can set up a trust that takes effect when you after you die. That's called a testamentary trust. A lot of those have to do with taking care of people after you're gone. And there's irrevocable trust. And some of those are charitable trust. Some of those are a Medicaid qualifying trust. If you have assets and you're afraid of going to the nursing home, there's attorneys that are specialized in those types of things. I'm not going to go down that path, but just be aware that there's vehicles out there to help you accomplish your goals. On that next page, if you name somebody your executor, and a lot of states now they call it your personal representative to handle your affairs after you die. If you've done that before, it's a lot of work. You have to, when someone dies, you have to like list the house, all the assets that they have, open up the court process with paperwork, manage the estate while it's going through that process, pay all the bills, pay the taxes. It's a lot of work. File the tax return, yeah.
May I just insert something in here? We went through closing my mother-in-law's estate 15 And she had put everything, all of her belongings were in a trust for her, so we didn't have to, this was in Wisconsin, we didn't have to go through probate. And what we ran into was people that we needed to do business with, who were hesitant to do business with us because we didn't have the letters testamentary from the court that you get by going through the probate process. And because we didn't have a court document that said Kate's okay to manage these affairs, we never had that document. They hesitated to do business with us. I think we went through some circles to try and get that process done, just because we didn't go through probate.
Yeah, so what Paul's talking about, let's say, you know, my father's gone, but let's say he dies, and I've got his bank account, and even though that it was in the trust, when I go to the bank, they might say, we need a legal document showing that you are appointed by the court to act on his behalf,
Right.
where in fact, you've got paperwork that has you down as trustee.
Right.
That's unfortunate that you ran into that problem.
Yeah, it is something people may run into, but
Yeah. I wonder if it was because you were out of state too.
yeah, probably.
You were from away, as they
Yes.
say in Wisconsin.
What if, my nephew is my financial power of attorney, and if his name is on my savings accounts and checking account,
That just speeds, that makes it easier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I did go into the bank, and they said, yeah, they needed to see my will stating that he is my power of attorney.
Right. So you could put somebody on the name. The key
Right.
is whether or not you're making a gift or not, but we're not, yeah. You went through that process, that's good. It makes it easier for him.
Yeah.
I don't see a lot of people here that have young children, but you probably have grandchildren. So one of the things that you might want to talk to your kids, your grandkids about, you know, because I've got a son, he's got three children. Make sure that they have a will that needs a guardian, because in some states, Massachusetts anyway, if the parents die and there's no will, they look up before they go out. So they go to parents and then out to brothers and sisters. So, you know, I'd be happy to take all three kids. We see them 3 days a week anyway, but I might not be in the best of health, and I might be dealing with some other stuff. So make sure your kids have the guardians and so forth in place. So if you turn to this next page, this is a great way for you to sit down and get a sense of, thank you, to get a sense of what you own and what's going to happen to it when you die. And everything that you have can be put into one of these 4 boxes. So that first box, personal assets, think of anything that has your name on it. Your checking account, your brokerage account, your savings account, any bonds that you have, maybe a mutual fund, your car, title, anything that has your name on it would go into that personal asset box. Also, if you have any collections, stamps, art, musical instruments, whatever, all your stuff in your house is personal property. That goes into that box. For most of us, we've worked for somebody else, so if you had a business, it would go into the second one, but for most of us, it's our retirement plan. So we had a pension plan, we had a 401k, we rolled that over to an IRA. That's our retirement asset box. Then we have a life insurance box. I would also include annuities in that as well, any contracts that we have, that we own. And then lastly, our real estate. And that could be your house that you live in, your residence, and also it could be a camp up on a lake. A lot of people in Maine have, you know, family camps sometimes. Nice to see you. You'll see the personal assets. That'll be distributed at the time of your death through your will and your trust. And here, I just updated my will, and my attorney put down a new form, which was interesting. He had me list tangible assets, things like my tools or whatever, my fly rod, where do I want that to go? So things so I could put down to avoid those issues for families, because what do kids fight about?
Money.
Well, money, but they also fight about, I wanted Dad's desk and you took it, and I wanted Mom's ring and you took that, and it's the stuff. It's the things that mean something to us. Sometimes it's, one attorney said if there's $10 on the table and there's no will, there's a fight. And nowadays, it's even much harder because there's a lot of second and third families, so you can have stepchildren and so forth. So the more times that you introduce other family members into these things, the harder it is to plan. You'll see the next two beneficiary designations, your IRA, your 401k, 403b, all those things, retirement plans, or your life insurance and annuities. They will have a beneficiary designation tied to that. You want to go back and look at that. Very important, because those two assets don't go through your will. Right? So when I die, I have an IRA, and I've named my wife Carol as the beneficiary. And if she's not there, I've named my two boys equally as a beneficiary. So it's very important that those things are named. Same thing with life insurance. Your real estate will be disposed of in accordance with the deed, because sometimes it will be joint with rights of survivorship. Sometimes people bought things together, a camp up in Maine. 3 brothers get together, they buy it together, and sometimes it's titled okay, but sometimes it's titled in such a way that the last person alive gets the whole thing, and all the other brothers and grandchildren aren't entitled to it. So you can see that things will be distributed in different ways at the time of your death. And then there's the biggest thing that will take away from the money going to our family or charity is long-term care costs, and those have gone up through the roof. Luckily, for a lot of families, they've actually started to come down because of assisted living. So 30 years ago, there wasn't assisted living. You go back, and there was very few places for assisted living, and you had to go into a nursing home and pay top dollar. And now you can go into assisted living if you can't get around so well, and the cost is much lower. So the average stay in a nursing home has come down to, I think it's under 2 years now, where people are staying in assisted living longer. So actually the long-term care cost, and now there's a lot of programs that help you age in place of home as well, which is even better. They have people come in, so. And different cultures do things differently. I live right next door to Lawrence, and the first generation Hispanics, they never sent anybody to a nursing home because all the kids took care of grandma at home. So we have a different cultural thing too. So one of the things that we want to do is know how to give. So in that next page, you'll see bequests, a will or a trust, beneficiary designations. Underneath that, let me just run through those first two. If you wanted to leave money to a not-for-profit, and you were going to give something from your personal property, whether it be some of your bank account or stock or whatever that you had in your name, if you don't write it down, it doesn't happen. All right? So an example of this is up in northern New Hampshire. There was 2 churches, United Methodist churches. At one time, they were thinking of merging. And there was an older gentleman in church that said, if you're really serious about that, I've got land, 16 acres, right between you guys, on the main drag. And if you sell your 2 buildings and build something on top, I'll give you the land. And the pastor thought it was a good idea, and the trustees thought it was a good idea, and they started thinking, because a lot of times when you merge churches, it's hard because if you come into my house, you feel like you're still a guest. But if they sold both, it looked great on paper. No one talked to him about a will or anything, and he died. And he had one nephew out in Kansas who wasn't a Methodist and didn't go to church. And he didn't care about their plan. that plan fell apart. So if you die without, if you want to give something to the church, it has to be in writing. Same thing with the beneficiary designation. If I want to give my IRA to the church, I have to put it in my beneficiary designation. I can put down 10% of my IRA goes to my church.
Now, you say written down, does that have to be in the will, written in the will?
If I want to give something from a personal piece of property, yes, it has to be in the will. Because no probate court can give anything without it being written down. There's probate law. If you die without a will, they have a body of law and testate, and they'll just go by the rules. And no state has any provision for a charitable bequest. It all goes to family, or it goes back to the state if they can't find anybody. So if you want to do something, get thee to an attorney. Donor advice funds have become very popular. They were very popular before, but they got even more popular when they changed the tax code and made the standard deduction very high. So some of you might remember filling out your taxes and filling out a Schedule A that listed all your charitable deductions and all the places that you gave. And well, now 90% of the people don't fill that form out anymore. The standard deduction is so high, but some people are pretty close where they could benefit. So we have a donor advised fund at the foundation, but Fidelity, Vanguard, all these big firms have donor advised funds. In fact, Fidelity's fund is the largest charity in the United States right now, I think, because they set up these funds where you can put in stock, even real estate, into a fund in your name, and then periodically make recommendations to send money to different charities. So it's like a poor man's foundation, is what it is. Because there's no tax reporting, you don't have to do this 5% rule or whatever. It's a great way. So let's say I know I want to give the church, let's say over the next 5 years, I'm going to give them $5,000 a year. And I have a block of stock that's appreciated. I can open up a donor advised fund and put in $50,000, $60,000 worth of stock. And now I can take a charitable deduction because I put it into this donor advised fund. And then over the next 5 years, I give the money away. So if I want the tax deduction, I can use a donor advised fund. We also have something at the foundation, a donor endowed fund. We started this because your church is very healthy, by the way. Honestly, Gwen, I've seen full-time churches not as doing as well as kudos.
Amen.
Amen. The donor endowment fund was started because we were hearing from people that, gee, I want to leave something to my church, but what happens if they close and there's no successor? Well, does that money go to the conference? I don't. So we said, well, wait a second. Don't not make a gift. You can make a gift through the foundation, set up an endowment at the foundation, and say, I'm going to leave you X amount of dollars at my will, or I can start it while I'm alive, and then the income from that endowment will go to the church as long as it's there. And if it's not there, then I'm going to direct that income to go to Camp Michoacán or partly to my college. So I get a say in what if my church isn't there anymore.
And this is all in the will.
This would be this particular, that could be in the will, or it could be with the foundation where you set up an endowment at the foundation directly. And it's a lot easier. It's a 2-page document, and we have it, and invest the money and send it off.
Does the will then need to reference that at all?
No. Although, if you were going to make a gift from your at death, in fact, I just did one of these with a woman. She wants to leave. She doesn't have any children. She wants to leave when she dies. Half the value of her house is going to go to nieces and nephews back in New Zealand, where she's from. The other half is going to benefit her church, right? So she opened up an endowment fund at the foundation for like $100. But she named that in her will that says, when everything is sold, give half to my nieces and nephews and half to my donor endowment fund at the foundation, because it's already set up. It has an account number, the whole thing. To make it simple. The last one is a split interest gift. Now this is interesting. You might need an income from your assets while you're alive, but you want to make a gift at your death. So you can set up either a trust or, say, a gift annuity, receive the income while you're alive, and then at your death, what's ever left in that trust or that gift annuity goes to your church or your endowment fund. And I'll get into that in a little bit more. The next few ones are just a little bit about how those things work. I'm gonna get to we keep going and go to the page that says know what to give. Those nice colored ones just sort of give examples of what I just spoke about. And I don't want to keep you here until I could talk here all day, but I'm sure you're probably wondering who's going to be throwing footballs for the Patriots today. So
For sure.
yeah. So it says know what to give. Now this is very important. If you especially if you have children and grandchildren. We want to give taxable assets. If we want to make a gift to the church, we want to give taxable assets to the church because the church is a not-for-profit and the church does not pay capital gains taxes or has to pay income taxes on things, right? We want to give tax-free assets or things that get a step up in basis to our family. And let me explain that for a minute. Let's say I have $1 million IRA. And I want to give 10% of that to the church, right? I can put that down with just a simple beneficiary designation. 90% goes to my kid, first my wife, and then my two boys, and 10% goes to the church. It's done like that. Anything that my wife or my family receives from that IRA, they take out of, this isn't a Roth IRA, a traditional IRA, they have to pay tax on it. If whatever I give to the church doesn't have to pay tax on it. So that makes a great gift to give to the church. Let's say I have a stock portfolio and I have a house. Bought my house in Methuen for like $130,000. They tell me on Zoom it's worth $500,000. I don't believe them. It's got one bathroom. It's crazy. It works though, so it's good. And when Carol and I die and the kids get that house, they don't have to pay a capital gains tax on the difference between $130,000 and $500,000. They get what's called a step up in basis. So at the time of my death, our death, or 6 months later, they get to choose. That's their new cost basis in the house. They can sell the house and not have to pay any tax on it. The same thing goes for stock. Let's say I bought, Microsoft at $40. And what is Microsoft now? It's like, huge. They get a step up in basis at death. I want to give those assets to my kids because they get a tax advantage. I want to give my IRA. I want to make a gift to my church. The IRA is the number one way to go. Then I want to assign those tangible assets to avoid the family fights, because you got what I wanted to get from Dad. And the next gift is clean house. Anybody here have to clean somebody's house out if someone died? Mm-hmm. Isn't that fun?
No.
The best gift that we can do is start pitching stuff now. My wife and her friends, they call it, let's get death ready. So we're giving stuff away, and we're at the point now in life, how much more stuff you get? So I tell the boys, Father's Day, birthday, Christmas, money goes to Lazarus' house. It doesn't come to me. you know, I don't need any more stuff, give it to charity. Feel good about yourself. Couple of case studies of how this works in real life. Well, made up real life. My parents are gone. They were Ruth and Bill, so I include them in my thoughts. So everything else is fictitious. What I did was I made someone both age 75 with children, grandchildren. Their net worth is $1.5 million, $700,000 in an IRA account, and their kids have done well. And they said, "Mom, Dad, we don't need money." And they say, "Yeah, but we want to save it to leave you guys a legacy, and we want to leave money to our church, some to our college. We want to teach you guys about generosity." So they sit down with their planner. If you go to the next page, the planner says, let's give the non-taxable assets to the family, and let's leverage your IRA to the highest and fullest benefit. We're going to make gifts to our grandchildren's 529 plan. A 529 plan, if you don't know, is a nice way to help your grandchildren save for education, and also now it can be used for high school. So, yeah, they brought in so if the kids are going to a private high school and you want to help out. They make annual and major gifts from their IRA accounts. I'm going to touch on that because anybody here over, no, I'm not going to ask that question. There are people here, I'm sure, that are over 70 and a half.
They expect us to raise our hands.
My mother was like 88, and my father had already passed, and she was having heart problems, and she called me up and brought her to the ER. I'm sitting with her, and she's nervous as heck, and the lady's taking her blood pressure, and it's up here, and the lady says, you know, "How much do you weigh?" She said, "I'm not telling you." I said, "Mom, a lot of medication is based on your weight, especially heart medication stuff. She says, "Fine, leave the room." Classic. Fine, I'll leave the room. And then they're going to set up an account at the foundation, a donor endowment fund, to receive future gifts. So if you turn to that next page where Bill looks like he's stealing a kiss from Ruth, or she's stealing one from him, I'm not sure how it goes. If you're over 70 and a half, right, and you have an IRA account, you can tell whoever has your IRA, whether it be a broker or the bank, whoever that trustee is, you can say, instruct them to take part of your required minimum distribution, or up to $100,000 in any 1 year, to send part of that money to your church. All right? And that money that goes to the church isn't taxable. So let's say, just for an example, the required minimum distribution is $5,000 this year. I have to take that out. They've reduced the penalty down to like 30%. It used to be 50%, but I guess they reduced that down. People are getting clobbered with the penalty for not taking it out in time. If I decide to give $5,000 to my church from this account, what's going to happen at tax time is I'm going to get a 1099-R, because it's a retirement account, and it's going to say, "Gary, you took out $10,000. I'm going to say, "Wait a minute, I thought I made a $5,000 gift. How do I get credit for that?" When I fill out my 1040 form, you know, the tax form, your 1040, on one line it's going to say, "Did you receive any money from your IRA account?" "Yep, $10,000. And right underneath it, it's going to say, "Was any of this a qualified charitable contribution?" "Yes, $5,000. Only subtract the two, $5,000 is taxable." So let's say I had to take $10,000 out, and I wanted to give the church $5,000 anyway. This is the way to give to the church.
Does that apply also to 401ks or?
You have to. It has to be in an individual IRA account. So if you have money in a 401k, you can roll it into an individual IRA account and then make that gift.
You don't happen to know about the thrift savings fund?
No.
It's more like a 401k.
You'd have to check to see if you can roll that into an IRA. I don't know if you can, but you'd want to sit down with a planner. I just heard about a financial need for equipment,
Playground.
playground equipment, right? Or the parking lot. If I want to make a substantial gift to the church, let's say a very large IRA, I was planning on leaving you 10% anyway. One of my clients, she was French, and she would say, there's a Jewish proverb, it's better to give when the hand is warm. Make that gift now. You can give up to $100,000 a year from your IRA. Say, I'm going to give you $20,000 to go toward the playground equipment. You give good playground equipment. Parents are going to drive by and go, I want my kids to go there. Look at the equipment they get, right? So, nice stuff. The downside of the new tax rule is, when my parents died, I had the election to make. I could take a lump sum from the portion of the IRA that went to me. I could take it as a lump sum payment and pay income tax on it. It's about $60,000. Now, if I add $60,000 to my income and my wife's income, we're in a high bracket. So I said, no, I don't want to do that. I could spread it out over 5 years, not so bad. Or I could take it, what they called an inherited IRA. And I could let that sit in there and grow, but because my parents were older, I had to take out a required minimum distribution when I was 55. But it's based on age. It was this big. Not a lot of money I had to take out. The rest of it was growing. And I can do that over my lifetime. With the new rules, that money from an inherited IRA has to be out in 10 years. So let's say I'm a single child and I got $1 million IRA coming my way. That money's got to come out fully taxable within 10 years. It's going to put me in the highest bracket. So 40% of it's going to go out the window. So one of the things you can do is you can set up a testamentary trust. And this is a charitable trust. You have to find a good attorney. We have sample documents for this. But I could have $500,000 of that IRA go into a trust, spend income out for the next 20 years to my kids, so they doubled the amount of time to take, and what's left in that trust will go into my endowment at the foundation to give income to Mitchell-Water, my church, in perpetuity. So it's called a Give It Twice trust. You're giving income to the kids, and you're giving an asset to charity. Not bad. The last one. Everybody remember Edith Bunker? I killed off Archie. Most people didn't like him. Edith is 77 years old now, member of your church for a long time. She doesn't get the deductions anymore. She'd like more income, and she wants to leave a legacy to her church until the camp, in this case, Camp Mitchell-Water, I'm sure. If you're from Maine, it's Mitchell-Water. So, the charitable gift annuity, if you turn the page, you'll see Edith. Now, when I first did this slide, CDs were still paying at 1.5%. They've come up a little bit, thank goodness. You can shop around and get a CD for around 5%. Close to it. But she still wants more income. She doesn't want to be in the market. What can she do? She comes to a workshop at her church and she finds out that at her age she can get a higher rate guaranteed for the rest of her life. She doesn't have to worry about the market going up, and she's entitled to a tax deduction depending on how much she gives. So on the next page you're going to see at age 77 we have tables, and the American Council on Gift Annuity suggests rates, and most every charity follows these. So you can do a gift annuity with the foundation. You could probably do it with the college if you went to college. You could do it with the local hospital. Maine Medical, I'm sure they offer that as well. We're better, though, because we're faith-based and we invested in socially streamed stuff, so it's good stuff. So she sets up an account with the foundation, a gift annuity. She purchases a gift annuity for $100,000. and we guaranteed to pay her $77,000 a year for the rest of her life. And then she decided that when she died, whatever left in that gift annuity is going to go into an endowment fund to give income to her church and to Camp Michoacán in perpetuity. If the church isn't there, it all goes to the camp. So if you go to the next page, she's one happy lady. She got a $7,000 payout. And by the way, because she gave cash, because she can also give appreciated assets, but because she gave cash, it's all considered a principal gift. And an annuity, by definition, is a return of principal, which isn't taxable, plus interest. So until her life expectancy at age 77, it's probably another 8 years, because the longer you live, the longer you're going to live. For the next 8 years, she's only going to have to pay tax on $2,300 of the $7,000, because $4,700 is considered return of principal. So for the first few years, she's got a really good tax benefit from this as well. And because she gave $100,000, she's entitled to a $47,000, almost $48,000 tax deduction, which she can spread out. If she doesn't use it all this year, she can carry it over into the next year. She doesn't get a $100,000 tax deduction. You know why? Because she's getting money back over her lifetime. Mm-hmm. You ever go to a charity event for like a dinner, and the cost of the dinner was, $150, and they give you a little thing at the end that said, you can deduct 75 of this because you ate the other 75. The same idea here. You're getting money back over your lifetime. You're good. This is the last slide. This is new this year, hot off the presses. I don't know who to give credit to. I'm sure there was a political action committee somewhere that was involved in this. But leveraging your IRA, you can take $50,000 from your IRA. This is a once-in-a-lifetime deal, by the way. $50,000 from your IRA to purchase a gift annuity. Right? There's no taking the money out of the IRA. There's no tax involved. Goes into a gift annuity. Based on your age, you're guaranteed income for life. And then when you die, you can set up an endowment fund at the foundation, income to go to your church. Anybody play basketball? Mm-hmm. This is a layup. This is real simple. If I'm over 70, when I hit 70 and a half, and if this is still around, this is gold. Because if I wanted to make a gift to my church, this is great. I'm going to increase my income. I mean, I still have to pay tax on the income, but what a great gift it is. On the the next couple of slides is just glossary. So I'm going to stop and take any questions that you have. I've been talking to 30,000 feet. By the way, I'm semi-retired now, and this is all I'm going to do now, is work with individuals that have questions. So if you want me to come on and have a cup of coffee, I'm there. I don't have to go to a meeting. Well, I do have to go to an investment committee meeting. That's the only meeting I have to go to anymore. So, you know how it is? Wouldn't it be great if you didn't have to do meetings?
Yeah, or email.
What's that?
Or email.
Oh, well, I still have to do that, answer questions. But if you have personal questions, you want to talk, my number's right on the front there. Our website is really good, too. You can go to our website, go to Plan Giving, and we have guides on wills and so forth. But if you have any questions at all, please call. Because the more you have, the more you need to plan. And some of the stuff is really easy, and some of it's wicked complicated. And a lot of things to do with charity are irrevocable. Gifts, you make a decision to give it away, and you've made a gift. The carpenters say, measure twice, cut once. Because you don't get a second chance at it. So make sure you talk to your other advisors.
Are there other questions or comments from anybody?
I've been doing it all along.
No, I have to do some updating, so.
I donate to my husband's memorial scholarship fund at our college, and I usually just write a check.
Now you can do the IRA, and it's a little, and leave your cash in cash.
Helps the
Yeah.
cash flow.
Thank you.
It's a wonderful way to make the gift. And you can make your gift to the church that way too. The hard part for your church treasurer here today,
George.
the hard part for the treasurer, because when this first came out, people were saying, gee, this is really great. I'm going to give like 3 years pledges from my IRA to the church. And they would get, the treasurer would get this check for like $40,000. But they never told the church this is what they're doing. So the treasurer gets $40,000. Wow, we're catching up on mission shares, we're doing this, we're doing that. And then that big pledger, next year, well, gee, aren't you pledging this year? You usually get, no, I gave you 3 years. Well, we already spent it all. So if you give the church a big chunk of money, let them know that this covers 3 years, so they can allocate it. So you don't end up. I'm sure if somebody gave you $40,000, you could find a way to spend it.
Oh, yeah.
I took my IRA this year and finished paying off my pledge and made a donation to Building Blocks campaign. You can do the same thing at the beginning of the year if you want to take your IRMD to pay your whole pledge. That way you cash in cash. And it's a win-win. It's a win for you and it's a win for the church.
Can you repeat that, Gary, so the cell phone can hear?
So what Judge was saying, you can because you can, for this year you have a required minimum distribution. So you could do part of for this year to complete that if you haven't done it, to make a gift now. But January 1st, you could take another distribution from your IRA account for the next year's requirement distribution and satisfy your pledge for the year. But again, make sure your treasurer knows that that's what you're doing.
It's not your week.
It's not your weekly. You just didn't win the lottery. This is going to happen every week, so that's really good. Good point.
Yeah.
Lots to think about, but as Gary said, feel free to contact, and if anybody online wants one of these, we have a few extras here. And so, Gary, here. Thank you.
Thank you. Happy Thanksgiving.
Yes.
Local, or do you live in
I live in Massachusetts.
Massachusetts, so you would not want to just come up for an hour or two?
Oh,
and
sure.
coffee.
Well, I would probably, because you're pretty close, so my wife's a quilter, so I'd probably drop her at Martin's,
Oh, there you go.
because I'm usually in the car with a book, and then go visit. No, this is an easy ride. Caribou might be a little bit harder to do.
Yes.
Especially in the winter.
She lives less than a mile from the church.
Yeah.